Well, here we are. Soul Faith Bible Talk, episode 2. How you
So,
doing, son? How
man,
are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Café 18 from Colombia. Shout out to Café 18
Listen,
from Colombia. We
Look,
had to.
we have to. Shameless plug. This is definitely like the best coffee.
One of the best coffees I ever had.
Yeah.
Café 18, Bogota, Colombia. We love you.
For real. All the way from Tampa, Florida. This is how much it's crazy.
It's good to have coffee at night, morning. It doesn't matter. It's always a good time. It's like worship. It's always a good time to worship.
That's facts. That's facts. We're getting right into it today.
No, we're going to get right into it today. So we're going to talk about worship.
Yeah.
I love worship.
Yeah. Can I ask you first though, because we want to make sure that everybody here can fully be aware of what we're trying to do. For those who may not know, what is worship?
And you know what? What we're trying to do here is we're not going to sit here and bash. We're not going to sit here and critique. We're going to sit here and talk about like, okay, what does the Bible say is worship? Right? But also, what does worship mean to you?
Personally.
What does worship mean to me? What does worship mean to you, the faithful that watch these episodes, and thank you so much. I feel like if we get right into it, like if we get right into it, right, there is like, let's say, let's call it a theologian definition for worship,
yeah.
right? And it's, if we look at theology, right, like some theological definition, brief definition of worship, right? It says worship is the awed, like in awe, awed response to the saving acts and praiseworthy character of God.
Yeah.
I can't see it being anything else than that.
Yeah.
In a nutshell, right? This is like a brief punch definition.
Like a quick 1-2. Yeah.
Define worship in one sentence, and it's that worship is the awed response to the saving acts and praiseworthy character of God.
So it's almost like a response of God's immense, unmeasurable power. Something that it just kind of mesmerizes you, right?
And when I worship, it's always from a place of, I can't believe you did what you did in my life.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. I can't believe that this is the life I get to live. I can't believe that this is the marriage I get to have. I can't believe this is the house I get to live in. And I can't, it's a bunch of, I can't believe you did this, and I can't believe you did that, and I can't believe, and then not only me, like the people around me, you, my family, my church, everything. I can't, marriages that we both know, I can't believe. I'm in awe. But by what you are capable, it's like, yes, God, I am in awe. I'm in total awe by what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
In my life and in everybody else's life.
Yeah. It gets really personal and really intimate real quick.
It
should be.
Like they say, right, as it should, right? As it should. Yes. I don't think there's a single person, whether they believe in God or not, who at one point saw something and said, wow.
Or didn't say wow.
Or didn't,
Yeah.
right, or didn't say. Whether it was, because when we think about, okay, what did God do, we always think about the testimonial aspect of it. Like, he healed me, he saved me, he lifted me, he restored the marriage, he built my company, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes just looking at the things that are there, like, you see these wonders of the world. And, I've been to places, you've been to places around the globe where, you look at some of the, in Spanish they're called paisajes. I can't even think of that word in English right now. And it's like, I'm in awe. Just the creation awed me. Not just a matter of the things that God has done, it's the things he created. Like, we've been to places, we've been around the world, we've traveled to different places. And, I think it happened to you too. you go to this hilltop, or you see this. I only know the word in Spanish, paisaje, right? This view, like, yo, what is this place?
Like a scenery.
Yeah, like this, like even here in America, you go to places like the Grand Canyon, you're like, what is this place?
Yeah. And you can get kind of like, it's almost like you're astonished that something like that could even exist. So you're saying that that's...
And how?
Yeah. You're saying that that should be like an attitude of worship, or that's what it is for you. That's an attitude of worship for you.
So when I say that, everybody on earth
Yeah.
can have a reason to worship, right?
That is true.
Just taking a trip, a road trip,
Yeah.
anywhere, any country, ours, yours, mine, Puerto Rico, Honduras, whatever, Colombia, wherever, any country, any place,
Yeah.
you could find something and be like,
Wow.
how? Only God.
That is true. That is true. And you get to see it like in like live, right there and in your face. I think that's a beautiful example and a beautiful picture that you're painting, because it's almost like you're kind of saying, like, for you, worship kind of comes from this place of gratitude.
Oh, yes.
And it's like, how can I not worship and be in this mesmerized awe of everything that God has done, when I am so grateful for everything that He's allowed me to see and touch and be a part of? That's beautiful.
I look back at, all the stamps on my passport, and I'm like, that gives me a reason to worship.
Yeah.
I have seen so many different parts of the world. To God be, and sometimes it's like, to God be the glory. To God be all the glory, because I'm in awe.
Yeah.
And of course, His character, who God is.
Yeah.
I could only worship Him in gratitude because I can't explain it.
Because it doesn't make sense how faithful, awesome, how, how merciful, how loving, how good, I like, it doesn't make sense, and I've had those moments, man, like those worship, like moments where I'm just like, dang, God, like, I genuinely don't deserve anything that I have, but I'm here, and those are the moments, man, that kind of like, they create this sense of, I really am so fragile, so small, and you really are this grand, amazing being who created everything in your image and your likeness, and you made it good, you made it perfect, and how dare I not give you all the praise, all the honor, all the glory, when I get to see how beautiful and creatively intentional you are with everything you have done.
And even at my age, to think there's still more. After all I've lived, after all I've been able to see, how many times I've been able to see His hand, whether it's in my life, my family's life, friends, churches, revivals, whatever, all different experiences where I've witnessed the power, the hand, the glory, the love of God in such high level, and to think there's still more to come.
Yeah, that's true. Because for us, like, I'm pretty sure you can probably think of certain moments where you've just had an amazing soaking, almost like in God's presence, and then you just thinking, man, like, how many more of these would I be, able to have, in my lifetime?
It's His saving acts, the character of God is so endless. I can't think of a time that isn't worthy of Him being worshipped.
Yeah.
That's why I worship God any chance I get during the day, I don't really schedule it. If I get a minute, I'll worship him. If I get an opportunity,
Yeah.
I'll worship him. I don't really think about it. Another thing about another definition, biblical definition, we see this in the book of Exodus 34, we see this in the book of Acts 10, verse 25, we see this in the book of Revelations, chapter 22, verse 8, where it's homage rendered to God. Worship is homage rendered to God.
Yeah.
And he is so worthy. Every single time, just worthy.
Yeah.
Worthy every single time.
Yeah. There's almost like, I know you were saying that, it's almost like you were saying that you can't, how dare you not worship? You can get any minute. And I love that because I've had moments in my life where I realize sometimes I get so angry and frustrated that
Easily.
if I just worship, it's almost like I immediately can just kind of lay that at his feet. And it's no longer there. Like, it's no longer bothering me. It doesn't change the fact that it happened. It doesn't change the fact that, I went through it, and I felt it and I experienced it. But it does change the fact that it's no longer weighing so heavily on me that it's like almost killing me, And I think about the times where I've taken that approach and I've worshiped and how it set me free. Yeah. But I also think about the times where I didn't. And then I end up stumbling. I end up backsliding, whether it's anger, whether it's like, something so small or something so big that I can classify it in my own ways, right? It's like, man, if only I would have worshiped, I would have been literally letting God know I'm good.
Yeah, not to be like the super Christians and, my reaction is to always worship. No, it's not. I wish it were, because just like you said, when my reaction to a situation, whatever it is, work-related, home-related, family-related, whatever, if my reaction was to just take some time and worship, man, it just makes it so much better. The times that I have been mature enough, smart enough to just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna go worship.
Yeah.
It has made such a difference. The situation has remained the same, but the level of peace has been greater.
It's almost like the situation can remain the same, but you have changed.
My attitude in the situation is different. And I think that's so important, right? Because sometimes our reaction to a situation can sometimes even be worse than the actual situation.
That is true. That is true. We kind of tend to do that as humans. We kind of like overhype it.
It's like when you're little, right? And you fall. You don't really cry till you look down and you see a little bit of blood, and then suddenly, you are like frantic, right?
Volcano.
You're like, and it was just seeing like blood coming out of some scratch or scar, and it really didn't hurt. But when you see that blood as a little kid, you're like, ah! I feel we stay like that forever.
Yeah.
It's really not that bad, but we see a little bit of blood, and it's like,
And worship allows us to kind of like just be the kid who, I have a boo-boo, but hey, I got patched up. I'm good. Let's go back out and enjoy it. Or, ultimately, because that's what they want to do, is they want to go back to playing. And so for us, it would be like, let's go back to just enjoying life, because it's almost like what Paul said. It was like, in this life you will have affliction. It's just a matter of staying joyful, staying true. And worship is a way that we get to do that, like, freely. That's awesome.
And it says, I wrote in my notes, like, worship actively places us before the true and living God and calls us to respond with every dimension of who we are.
Break that down. You said every dimension of who we are?
Every dimension of who we are. Faithful worship unlocks and opens, calls and guides us in our life as faithful exiles. as we live lives of worship, we bear witness to the grace of God that enlarges our hearts and minds and extends our capacities to love and serve. So, active worship extends our capacity to love and to serve. Because I feel like worship makes you realize God has seen us through. We are still here. There's a new situation, there's something happening, the world is what it is, governments are what they are, you know, the economy is what it is, taxes are what they are, interest rates are what they are. You know, I feel like I'm crying right now. No, but like, I got real personal. No, but, you know, I think worship reminds us, he saw us through this before, and he'll see us through it again.
Reminds me of something my mom said to me, like in a really hard time of our lives. And I remember this had to be the Holy Spirit in her, man, at that moment, because this is a woman who's bearing her firstborn daughter, who she just lost to cancer, right? And I'm a 18-year-old kid who's struggling with my anger and looking at God like, there's no way you're real if you just allowed this to happen, right? I remember my mom, she looked at me and she was crying, like, you know, physically crying, but it's almost like in that moment it wasn't her. And God just wrecked me with this word, and it just sticks with me here. He was like, she just said, God is still God, and God is still good, and he's still seated on the throne. Yes. And then she just went back to almost like crying and doing whatever, and I was just kind of froze. And I think about that moment a lot, man, because I'm like, man, like, to be able to, in that moment, have that certainty, that clarity, that comes from a place of true worship. That comes from a place of true intimacy and knowing who God is.
And it comes from a place of having seen this before, having been through this before. Loss is something that we've all been a part of.
Yeah.
And here we still are. We've all been a part of loss, but we're still here.
Yeah. It's almost like worship doesn't remind us of what we have lost, but it reminds us of what we have gained through Christ, through everything that we have now in our new life with him. Because that's kind of the beautiful part about being sons and daughters of God, is we have this new life regardless of everything that has happened.
Yes.
And worship is kind of like a reminder, like, man, like, even though I went through this and I used to be that and I've done this and I was down bad, I have this new life. I have this new gift, this new opportunity. And that's why I get to worship. I love that, man.
The difference with prayer is that worship is not, we don't worship God because we want him to do something. We worship God because he's already done something.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes prayer sounds like a wish list, like, God, please give me this and give me this and give me this and give me this. You know, we're sitting on his lap. We're not at his feet, we're at his lap.
Yeah.
Come on, somebody. We're not at his feet, we're on his lap. God, can you give me this and this? Make sure she looks like this.
Yo, you came for somebody's neck.
Prayer is different.
Yeah.
Worship is, I'm going to worship you because of things you've already done. If you do no more.
I love that.
Because that's how I live. If you do no more, I've lived an amazing life.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful place I think we should all strive to get to, is, God, if you do no more, you've done more than enough.
More than I could have ever dreamed, imagined, wished for, more than anything.
Yeah.
More than anything.
Wow.
And that's where my heart of worship comes from, you know. And I think that's why we should take worship. You know how we always talk about, okay, let's not be the church inside the four walls, let's be the church outside the four walls. I think one of the first things we gotta, every time we think about, okay, let's be the church in the streets, let's be the church outside the four walls, outside the building, we always think about, okay, let's go feed the homeless, okay, let's go. And I'm like, I want to worship God outside of the church.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to wait till just Sunday for the worship experience at church, and that's when I'm going to worship God.
Yeah.
Nah, I want any and every opportunity I get to just be able to open my heart to Him and worship Him.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty about worship is that there's no certain way you have to do it.
There's no right or wrong way.
There's no right or wrong way.
It's personal. It's, you know, it's what moves you. You know, I remember, because this is crazy, like the last 2 years, my worship time with God kind of received an interruption with kids, right? But it became something so beautiful because, you know, and this happened when Kyra was a year and a half, and we're going to church, and people are seeing this little kid, one-year-old, just lifting his hands up during worship. And they're like, how does he know how to do that? Well, the backstory is I allowed for a space where my son could be invited to that moment of worship in our living room at a young age. And he knew the songs. He knew the melodies. He would hum. And we had so many videos. And as a parent, it brings you joy. But it also brings me to like a sense of pride that, like, man, like, we really are doing something amazing. But not only that, like, I've been able to not take worship for granted. And if you only worship, you know, like you said, within the four walls of a building of a church, you're kind of missing out, man. You're missing out tremendously on what that time with God can be.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And, you know, we've been, you know, we've elevated and sort of magnified, you know, the worship experience at church.
Yes.
And so if it isn't like the worship experience at church, it can't feel like worship, right? I've had amazing worship sessions with the Lord, just me, God, my horrible voice, and it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that that's what God is looking for.
Yeah.
You know, I think God is looking for us to just worship Him whenever, however. You know, He's not gonna, you know, evaluate us about, you know, or well, you sing really, really good and you didn't sing as good. And He's not gonna do that. You know, it's gotta come from the heart.
Yeah.
You know, a heart of gratitude. However it sounds doesn't matter, because He's not even listening to your voice. He's listening to your heart.
Yeah.
And I think when you worship truly from the heart to God, it is the most beautiful song.
Yeah.
Or melody. That's the most beautiful melody.
It's a pleasing aroma to Him.
It's exactly.
Yeah. And it's coming from, like, even like when Jesus was breaking this down, He said, you know, like, the Father is looking for worshipers who will worship me in spirit and in truth. And it's like, it's almost impossible for you to have that level of worship only on a worship experience that has been set up and, there's intention behind it, whether it's a Sunday service or a worship night or something like that. There's so much work, intention, prayer, and stuff that goes into it to intentionally build a moment where, you know, people can, experience the tangible presence of God. But in spirit and in truth means after this moment is over and the next day comes and the reality of Monday is now here and back to work and your kids are driving you nuts and the house is a mess and yada, 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 the list goes on. Does your worship still carry that same amount of weight?
I think you undervalue worship, and I think you really put yourself in a position of missing out when you think worship is the feel good experience.
The goozies
of the 3 songs that are sang at church before the sermon.
Yeah.
When you narrow worship to just being that, you're missing out on so much beauty of God.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes people tell me, "Oh, I just want to feel Him." Worship Him, you'll feel Him. Yeah. You know, and we've made it so that or sometimes we limit ourselves to, I can't wait to go to church to worship. That's not bad. That's great, because I can't wait to go to church on Sundays or Wednesdays to worship either. It's beautiful. I'm not saying that that's bad, but what I am saying is you're limiting yourself if that's the only definition you have in your life.
That's the only time that you've allowed.
And yes.
Yeah.
That's the only space that you've taken out of your whole entire life, your whole entire week, whatever, to just narrow it down to 35 minutes on Sunday. And that's the only worship experience you have. And as beautiful as they are, man, you're really missing out on some beautiful relationship with the Lord when you're not taking worship outside of the four walls and into your living room, your bedroom, your workspace, your car.
Yeah.
You're walking the park, you're jogging, you're missing out.
Yes.
When you're not using these other spaces and there's other times and these other areas in your life and these to also worship God, you're missing out.
Yeah.
You're missing out on Him being present. I feel like people think that God sits at church to wait for us.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do feel like some people can feel that way.
Yeah.
And imagine though if we had that attitude of like, I can't wait to wake up in the morning so I can go meet God in my living room and worship.
Imagine.
You know what I'm saying? So
I can't wait to wake up, go downstairs, because that's where God is, in my living room.
Yeah.
And I'm going to worship Him right there.
Yeah.
But I feel like, man, we just limit ourselves to, God's at church. I can't wait to go to church to go where God is. And I'm like, man, God is supposed to be with you always.
Always, yeah.
There shouldn't be a place you got to go to meet up with God.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's facts.
And I think that when you have an active worship, an active worship lifestyle, you realize, I don't go nowhere to find God. God is constantly around me, with me, in me. He's present.
Yeah.
He's here right now.
Yeah.
Probably sitting closer to me, but he's. I'm just.
Shots fired. That's crazy.
No.
That's crazy.
but he's here.
But you know that I don't.
Yeah, right. But he's here right now, and it's like, we don't have to wait. And I think worship teaches you that you don't have to wait to go to a certain place for there to be a certain setup for you to then say, oh, finally, I can worship.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I feel like the problem with worship nowadays is that a lot of people have misunderstood what worship is. Like you said, we kind of limit worship to an experience. A lot of us sometimes think of worship as only like a beautiful song that kind of hits the right melody and has the right bridge, the right chorus, and then it makes us emotional and it breaks us down a little bit. Or we think of worship as so many things that aren't just the fullness of it, right? And so when you don't understand the fullness of worship and you don't know how to not define worship, you will kind of settle, or, you will settle because it's either you don't know or you just don't think that it's for you. Mm-hmm. And so I do want to talk about that a little bit because, I feel like worship is not just songs, right? It's not just beautiful worship songs and melodies and stuff.
Broken melodies.
Hey, that song is fire. But it's not just that. It's not just your amazing worship team. And there's some really dope
And there's
ones.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sound like, oh, we are speaking against.
No, of course not.
Great, churches having great worship teams and great setups.
By all means, please let me know.
If your church has a dope setup,
I'm trying to go.
Invite us. We want to come out to us, and worship with you.
Yeah.
I'm all about, in our church right now, we're going through, pastors like going through this whole thing where he's made worship a little bit more intimate. You know what I'm saying? Not
Which has been really dope.
Not that big explosive
Yeah.
smokes and lights all over. Just intimate.
Yeah.
You know, almost like an acoustic setup.
Yeah.
And it's been so amazing.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful to witness, yeah.
You know, and it's been really good. And we're not speaking against those, you know, but what you're saying is that's not the only type of worship that exists.
Yes. Yeah, like for me, right, I know you kind of gave like a little bit of, you know, you personally, we talked about the Bible. Like for me personally, I feel like worship is devotion. You know, and the reason why I say that is because when we live a lifestyle of worship, we're essentially living a lifestyle of surrender and gratitude. It goes hand in hand. And so it's like, we can go back to that point. No matter what happens, God is God. God is good. He's still on the throne. And so you kind of live this lifestyle of, all right, everything is worship. Yeah. And I remember like there was a time period in church, and I think this is still a brand, but it was like life is worship and stuff like that. And it made me think about like growing up playing basketball, you know, ball is life. If you look at worship like that, like worship is life, you can almost really say that for believers when you really get to grasp the fullness of it. Yeah, worship is life. It's something that will bring life out of you.
It has to be your life.
Yes.
Not your lifestyle, but your whole entire life.
Yeah.
I try to worship God in everything that I do. I have no musical talent. I can't play no instruments. I definitely have no voice. I have no business being up there with no worship team at all. Right?
Same, by the way.
But I feel like I worship the Lord in not only in songs, like you said, because sometimes it's so true. We think, okay, let's worship. Okay, what song?
Yeah.
We you know, sometimes that's just singing.
Yeah.
Just because you're singing along and reading the lyrics doesn't mean you're worshiping.
Yeah.
Because you may be looking at the screen, you may be following us along and singing along, and your heart and your mind may be somewhere else.
Been there, done that.
And so all you're doing is participating, but you're not worshiping.
Yeah. Or like you're just there, but you're not engaged.
Right?
Know?
Because your heart's not in it, your mind's not in it, you're singing along and it sounds dope, and you know all the lyrics, but you're thinking about XYZ, or your heart's not really in it, you know? And sometimes when it's about songs, then it's more about the feelings. If it's not the song you want to get in, you know, if it's not your song.
And we've all been guilty of that. I'm going to be the first to say, I've had moments where I'm like, I can't believe they didn't have no Mav today, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't think that's bad.
Yeah, I know.
So-and-so, no, we don't want to do that.
We don't know.
Folks.
Yeah, I'm just talking about, you know, there's always like so many stipulations with these things, man.
There's nothing wrong with loving songs that are out there.
Of course.
You
Or
know,
groups or people or styles.
Styles.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong. I am the first one to say, I want to hear something by Kim Walker-Smith. Definitely. Always going to want to hear something by her.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with, like, I want to hear something by Jesus Culture or, Bethel or Elevation. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not saying that. And there's nothing wrong with having your favorite playlist. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, that shouldn't be the definition of worship, shouldn't be a playlist.
Yeah. You shouldn't rely on certain things to kind of be able to take you to that place.
Now, it's beautiful that these things are available.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in the flip side of that, there are times where I'm like, I want to punch somebody in the head, right?
With my Bible.
Not with my fist. No, but and you start going, going through your mental playlist. Yeah, you know what? I need this song by this artist.
Yeah.
And there are times, hey, and it's beautiful when
Yeah.
you like, oh man, I'm gonna play this song by this artist. I'm gonna play Broken Melody by Mav. And after you start playing that song, you start hearing that song, you start feeling guilty for feeling mad. You start feeling convicted, like, ooh, Lord Jesus.
I'm sorry, Lord. I didn't mean
You feel like calling that person back. They said, by the way, I cursed your mama. No, you didn't. No, you don't know I did.
But I'm sorry.
But I'm sorry. I cursed your mama. You don't know this. It makes you feel like you got to make that phone call.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's beautiful. You know, because let's defend the music too, which plays a huge part in worship.
Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing thing. Like, you know, we're doing the worship nights. It's, you know, we're really particular about, okay, what songs do we want to, you know?
Yeah.
Because they set a tone, they set an atmosphere, they help. But you got to take that atmosphere, you got to take that goozy, that feeling, and you got to keep it alive.
Yeah.
In your day to day, just, okay, lights out, it finished. No, worship didn't finish. It should be continuous.
Yeah.
You know, go home, sleep worshiping, wake up worshiping, get ready for work, for school, whatever, worshiping.
Yeah.
Drive to work worshiping.
Listen,
you know?
And I got a story about that because I remember as a teenager, my first time going to a Christian concert was Jesus Culture. And I remember we drove from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, and after that, my friends and I, we were all like, we didn't want it to end. We still wanted to just keep on working. Like, they had already done the intermission, which is a song after the set list is over. Everybody's packing, like, you know, I met Chris Kalala, got a signature, you know, just saying, but we still were like, we still just want to worship. And that's a beautiful attitude for us to have, is like, okay, like, after this is experience and this time and everything is over, God, I still want to worship you. I still want to be in your presence.
You know, in my days at the early church, you know, we used to be so adamant about, hey, don't limit the Holy Spirit, right? So if we got to sing the song for 40 minutes, then so be it.
I remember those days.
And they were beautiful days. And you sang the song for 40 minutes. And it wasn't that we would be mad that, well, yeah, we would get mad when they had to finish the song and cut the song off, you know. It was just that it creates such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
You know, you forget about everything.
Yeah.
You forget about who you're mad at, what you're mad at, what you don't have. You forget about your limits. You forget about your shortcomings. You forget about everything, and you just embrace this feeling of joy. Because I think that that's the beautiful part of music in worship, is that it brings us this joy.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't a worship song out there that makes you want to, like, walk in front of a bus, you know? Like,
That was dark.
you know, like, there's some Julio Iglesias
We're gonna have
songs,
to pray
maybe.
for you. This man talked about cussing out people's mamas, punching people in the face.
Listen, I need Jesus every day. This is
we
evident.
need to have a worship break right now. Hold on.
We need to just pull out the panderetas and
That's
go
crazy.
at it. No, but you know, the songs are about, you know, hope and love and
Yeah.
experiencing God, and yeah, it helps. Listening to those lyrics is such an amazing thing. It's so beautiful, because I feel like every time I put on a song and and I start paying attention to the words and listening to the lyrics, and then you go from paying attention to the words, listening to the lyrics, paying attention to the words, to singing the words. It makes you forget.
Yeah. And there's so many,
In a good way. Man.
yeah, and there's so many amazing songs, man, that could either remind us that we are God's children, of how much He loves us, but then there are so many songs that help us put our gratitude into words. And that's what I love about the versatility of worship, man. It's because
Yes.
there's moments, right, where it's almost like, man, like, I don't feel worthy to come worship. But then you hear that song that says, you know, like I am chosen, I am His, whatever. I am who you say I am, and you're like, yo, like,
You know, songwriting is a God-given talent.
And so you have to love the fact that God has given us these gifts and abilities, right? And I love people who can sit there and write.
What I'm feeling inside.
Yes.
For me.
Right. Because
I feel like when they wrote Broken Melody, I feel like they sat with me, talked with me, heard
they
my
were
story.
inside my head. Yeah.
You know, heard what I was going through, what I've been through, what I'm going through, and wrote a song.
That's crazy, right?
The beautiful thing about these amazing songwriters and amazing artists and amazing singers and you know, musicians, thank you, is that, yeah, man, they have this ability to put what I'm going through, what I'm living through, what I just came out of or walking into a song.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, God, you're with me.
Yeah. And you see that even with like these psalmists, right? Like you see that with David and stuff, where he's talking about, man, like even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, like you're still with me, right? And all these amazing things, and you're like, man, like you can sometimes read a psalm and you look at how David was wholeheartedly worshiping with pen on paper, and you're like, dang, like that's how real and intense worship is, you know? And I love that, man. Like I love to worship because it's something that I can't always see the immediate benefit of it, but I can see the seeds that are being planted in those moments. And then it's almost like as each worship experience gets more profound, like I'm like, man, like, Lord, I've grown just in my gratitude.
Yes.
And that's something that I struggled with for a lot of years is, you know, it was like I was okay being God's child. I was okay being gifted or whatever, but I wasn't always content with just Him being enough. And so the more I got in tune with the Holy Spirit and worship, it was like, God, you are more than enough.
Yeah.
And so it's like what you say, like now, how can I not worship when I'm just like, man, like just 3 years ago, none of what I have existed.
Exactly.
You know, none of these promises, prophecies, the ones that are living, breathing, and call me dad, the marriage that I have, none of this was here. And how can I not sit here and just be like,
and it's
yo.
beautiful. And the thing, another thing that worship does, and we see it in these, you know, worship nights and pop-up worships and, you know, open space worships that we're doing. Man, communities come together.
Yeah.
People come together. And we're not coming together from one church or one particular church. Like people come together from all different churches, all different walks. And the common denominator is, I just want to spend time with you worshiping God.
Yeah.
And I think that's so beautiful.
I think that's a beautiful thing that, you know, we have kind of, it almost happened on accident. But if you think about every worship night that we've had at So Faith, like the days of, I'm meeting the people who are leading us into worship for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even remember most of their names or nothing. But we all had one goal. Our one heart was just, look, man, this is about Jesus. We're here. And I remember having those conversations in the beginning of the last worship session. I'm like, listen, y'all, I just need worship. Y'all go crazy, go all in, do whatever you got to, because I don't give me the mic. I just want to worship, bro.
And I love what God is allowing us to do, to take these worship experience. I don't want to call them worship experiences, but these worship moments and these pop-up worships or, you know, open space worship sessions, and do them in places you wouldn't think that this is where we're going to go worship, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's just beautiful because they're not beautiful places. They're just like random empty spaces.
Yeah.
There's nothing, no walls, no flooring, nothing. And people are willing to just come together you know, and feel good and love Jesus, which then makes us love each other. You know, yeah, man, that last worship session we did, man, it was so dope because, yeah, I met there I am worshiping with a bunch of people I didn't know.
Yeah.
But we put our arms around each other and stuff because the one thing we did know is that I don't know you, but I know that what I know about you, what I can see of you, is that you and I both love Jesus.
Yep.
And that makes you a perfect friend.
Yeah. I love that, man. I genuinely wish that more of us as the body of Christ would just get together to just do that. Like, let's put apart all the differences, all the divisions that we have, you know, all the cultural, ethnic backgrounds, whatever, and let's just worship God and let's just see what happens.
Yes.
You know, like true worship that really just opens the floodgates of heaven is not just going to change us. It's going to change the people around us, man. It's going to cause like that real awakening, that real revival that we're all really hungry for, that we're all crying out for. And I love that that's what, you know, worship can really do. It's a tool.
It is.
You know, it's a powerful tool.
It's a powerful, powerful tool that God has given us to bring people together, to love on people, to fellowship with people, to make community with people, you know, and to forget that we may have so many differences, to totally forget the differences.
Yeah.
You know, and just come into that common denominator space of let's just love Jesus for who Jesus is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I don't need you and I to agree on a bunch of other things, but if we can agree that we can love Jesus for who he is, this is great.
Yeah.
And you're great.
Yes. And we're going to be all right, you know? Like,
And we're going to be great.
we're going to be just fine.
We're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's going to see us through.
Yes.
And we're going to see the other side of the mountain. The seas are going to be parted. We're going to walk on dry land. What I love about worship, man, I feel like I'm walking on dry land.
On dry land?
Mm-hmm.
Break that down.
The seas have been parted, and I'm walking on dry land.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful about that is, and I don't want to start preaching.
Preach.
You know, the Bible says that they walked on dry land, and I'm like, you know, it was important for God to make sure that they were able to leave behind their footprints and know that only them. They were the only one. Those are the only footprints. Those are the only feet to have ever touched that land.
Yeah.
And no feet has ever touched it before, and no feet will ever touch it again.
Yeah.
And so worship brings me to places like that. Like, God, there's things that you did that were just so particular for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, God did some things that were just for me.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That this great God who created everything did something particularly for me.
Yeah. And it makes a amazing, grandiose God, the God of the creator of the universe, personal. And I love that because the Bible is intimate. The Bible is full of that, man. There's so many moments and so many stories that Jesus did something specific for certain people, you know, throughout his ministry and throughout his time out here.
For me, just realizing that God made it a point to be so intimate with me makes me want to worship him. The fact that, you know, like you say, being so grandiose, being over everything. He saw me, he found me, He lifted me. And I can't stop worshiping him because of that.
Yeah.
You know, he embraced me, he loved me, and I can't stop worshiping him because of that.
So in 2025, outside of music and songs and stuff, what would you say as somebody who's man, you've been walking with God and being driven by God and worshiping God, what is a way that you think the church collectively or all of us individually should worship God?
For me, as we come to the end of 2025, I think regardless of everything we see, he's still present. Like in the words of your mom, God is still God. He's still the Almighty. He still is seeing us through. He's still healing. He's still restoring and lifting. He has not stopped being God, not one time.
Yeah.
And we need to put so many things aside and start worshiping the Lord with our hearts. Not with our eyes, but with our hearts. Not with our ears, but with our hearts.
Yeah.
Not with our voices. Not because we learned the lyrics of a song, but because in our heart, we want to thank the Lord for being who he is. We want to thank God for God. Thank you for you.
Yeah.
And thank you because in the middle of this mess that we live in sometimes, I see you.
Yeah.
I see your hand. I see your love. I see your mercy. I still see so much good. I think that's what's beautiful about worship. It allows you to when I'm worshiping the Lord intimately, meaning there's no music, there's no noise. The only noise is the inner audible noise of I know what my heart is saying out to the Lord. And I'm just there. And I'm thinking, wow, God, you are so amazing. There's so much good that you're still doing. There's so much. There's so many miracles still happening. Breakthroughs still happening.
Yeah.
And I think in 2025, we need to end the year on that note.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget 2025. The people are like, oh, I can't wait for this year. It's over. Oof, when 2026 comes out, forget 2025 ever happened. I'm not. Because I saw God's hand in 2025.
Yeah.
I saw his love, his mercy, his power, his might. I saw it all. I'm not going to forget it. I'm not going to forget it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's important. And to have a heart of worship is to be connected with the Lord, is to reflect on who God is. Not what he can do or what he hasn't done, but who he is and what he has already done.
Yeah.
We can't blame God for the world we live in.
That is true.
And sometimes people are like, oh, look at this world. It discourages me from worshiping. Are you crazy?
You should worship even more.
It should make you want to worship more.
Yeah.
It should encourage you to worship more. It should make you more aware of where is your relationship with God? Where are you with God? And I think with worship, you find that. You find that place of where you are with God, and then you move closer and closer and closer to him,
Yeah.
towards him.
Yeah. I think a true attitude and a posture of worship will allow us to really live out that verse where it says, consider it all joy, right? When you go through these things. And it makes me think about almost like Elijah, right? And the prophets. And, when it's almost like they're having like this face off with the prophets of Baal, or I don't know, is that how you say it in English?
Yeah.
I know it in Spanish is Baal, but Baal, and and they're trying to worship to make something happen, and they're going crazy and they're cutting themselves and they're doing all these extra things to the point where he's even mocking them, and he's like, all right, y'all done? Y'all finished? And he gets up and he worships, and he, because he worshiped and he had that connection and that intimacy with God, it happened like this. And a lot of times, when life is lifing and things are going on, and the political climates and all these things are going on, it's like, okay, what can I do? You got to worship God, expecting that his hand is going to move, right? Because right now what you're hearing is all the noise of everybody else, of all the fake people who want, their things to happen and their agenda to be pushed and all these things. And you have no peace because you're letting it consume you. And instead of counting it as joy, you're getting angry and you're pointing fingers and you want to attack. But if you worship and you allow God to just be God, and you remind your spirit, your soul, your mind, everything, he's done it before. He's gotten us out of captivity. He's gotten us through the desert. He's fed us in the wilderness. He has made fire rain from the heaven. We're good.
He has always been there. We have never been forsaken.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm forever grateful. And my heart is so full of that gratitude. And I think that's why I'm always down to worship no matter what, because there's so much gratitude. I don't think about the things I don't have. I don't think about the places I've never been to. I don't think about the titles that I've not been given. I don't think about any of that. I think about what has happened.
Yeah.
What he has given, what he has done. To me, Mr. Super imperfect, and yet still, And I love what I wrote here. It says to worship is to know, to feel, to experience the resurrected Christ in the midst of the gathered community. It is breaking into the glory of God, or better yet, being invaded by the glory of God.
Wow. Yeah.
When you worship the Lord, you are invaded by the glory. Invaded, and it's such a beautiful place to be. It's such a beautiful moment to be invaded of the glory of God, where the problems start looking small because his glory is so big.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And worship reminds me we serve a big God.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's almost like an invitation, man. Like, because sometimes life's problems seem so big and God can feel so distant or so far away. And I think there's just an amazing opportunity for you to allow your God to be bigger than your problems by allowing your worship to be bigger than your fear, bigger than, your diagnosis, your prognosis, your, whatever, and just allow yourself to be like, you know what? God is God.
If we're not careful, it is so easy for God to become so small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or for God to become so far-fetched. Or I feel like sometimes we make God like unreachable, inaccessible, all the things he's truly not. But because we do that, instead of being invaded by the glory of God, we get invaded by our problems.
Life's problems, yeah.
We let life invade us, and we don't let the glory of God invade us.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes it's like, man, it's hard to be a Christian because you don't worship. It's fun for me. I love being a Christian. It's fun. I have a great time. To be able to just right now worship and have a moment with the Lord, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, this has been our session today. We just want to be thankful to the Lord. We just want to invite you to just worship the Lord. You don't have to put it on a schedule. You don't have to put it in an agenda. You don't have to put it in a time slot. Every moment and any moment that you can have available to worship him, just do it.
Yeah.
Get into his presence. Be invaded by his glory. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. And don't limit it to songs or moments or, worship experiences. No. Worship could be just as great as sitting there and just pondering on him, thinking of him.
Yeah.
That's worship. There's so many ways to worship.
So many beautiful ways to worship. Just make it personal.
Make it
make
personal.
make it yours. Just make it a time where, for you, all eyes are on God.
And we want to thank you for being a part of what we're doing as far as these worship nights in the open space. And we got, other ones coming up. We've had 2 in the open space, and we got more coming up. And so we just want to thank you for all the people that come out, for all the people that are supporting us,
Yes.
for all the people that are, making community with us and joining us. And thank you. Thank you that we get to worship with you and cry out to the Lord together and show our gratitude to the Lord. Thank you for thanking God for me as I thank God for you.
That's good. Yeah. Thank you for being along for the journey, man. We can't wait to see what God is doing and what God is going to do. And we're just going to keep doing this for the kingdom.
Yes.
Keep enjoying it, and we'll be having more and more episodes and
More
worship
guests.
nights and Bible talks.
That way you don't
live.
get bored of just seeing our faces. We're going to have some other beautiful faces out here, and they're going to be joining us. We got a lot coming up, guys. Just keep in tune. Thank you for praying for us. Always pray for us. And thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. Always. We love you guys.
Yes, sir.